update on the game. So the last time I posted a video, I was showing you the event screen and how that was all connected up. So now what I've worked on, normally I generate the game world and create a new game, but what I've done now is a television screen, and those two are quite interconnected. So this is kind of drawing the line into this part of the work. What I'll do is, instead of creating the game world, which I've already done, I'll load a game that I've just created, and I've modified this game a little bit just for the demonstration for this. So I've modified some of the database values, changed the contract lengths and so on. So when we start the game, we have the welcome notification from the owner. He's welcoming us to Elite Rumble Revolution, which is the name of the promotion that we're controlling. This is all fake data that gets generated by the game world generator. So we've got 87 million here. This is clearly a big global scale promotion. We have a look at the roster. We can see that we've got 4 main eventers. Let's have a look at that upper mid card. It's quite a big upper mid card, and we've got a few guys that could potentially move up. There hasn't been any changes. This screen is exactly the same as it was before, so you can have a look at their contract data. We've got a lot of guys on a verbal contract that we should, especially for a global promotion, we should tie those guys up, especially our main eventers. So you can filter by all of those things. You can have a look at the worker statistics. So I've got a bunch of guys that are quite over. Got a bunch of technical guys. Maybe we've got more brawlers in this promotion. Anyway, and we've got characteristics. So none of this stuff is actually changed drastically. This is what it is. But what I've done is I mentioned that I've coded. The wrestler profile. I was wondering where the rest of the guys went, and then I realized I'm not sorting by the card status. So the wrestler profile screen, I haven't coded this. This is just the mockups, and you can see by the way the screen changed that this is hard-coded mockup. So what I've done is I've wired it so that if I click my mouse, it will show you all the mockups in turn. So I'm going to pretend that this is all kind of coded up, but none of this is just images. None of this is actually wired up. So you're looking at a wrestler. This is a mock-up of Hollywood Hogan, but this could be whatever wrestler that you've clicked on. And over here you get an idea of their abilities. You get their status at the moment, their morale, the condition, whether they're injured or not. And over here their position in the roster and manager and gimmick and so on, which you can change by clicking on these buttons. And you've got the overview here. And whether this is your wrestler or you're viewing somebody else's, so a wrestler that's not contracted to you, you have a contextual button that you can click on here. So if it's not your wrestler, you'll be able to make them an offer. You can terminate their contract if they are your wrestler, find wrestler, and so on. And we can click on the contracts tab, so we get their current contract. We are able to offer them a new contract. This is dummy data, this isn't real data, but here as the wrestler moves around the game world and gets offered contracts and works those contracts and so on, you'd see all the places that they've been, and this would kind of develop as it goes along. If I click on the history tab, we get the last few matches and the star ratings for them. We get the achievements, and these are the in-game awards that the wrestler has won, like the PWI awards and so on. And we get their title history as well. So this adds a little bit of depth and lore to the wrestler, and this is something that I just need to, the design is there, I just need to code it, and it's something that I'll come to. Anyway, I click on back to go back into the game again. If your promotion, so this is if your promotion had a logo, that would show here, that's why that changed there. Speaking of stuff that's not done, feuds, I haven't got around to doing that. I think feuds, booking, and actually attending the events, I group them all into one thing, and that's something that's kind of separate from everything else as well. So I think that's probably the last thing I'll get around to. We can have a look at our staff. So this is we've got a global scale promotion, so we've got a lot of announcers, referees, and so on. We can filter by those various things. We can sort and dice this up. This is very similar to the roster screen. The only difference is you can actually do actions from here, but these actions are not actually wired up, and the reason for that is that the new screen has a response button, and this should dynamically, so whatever the news item is, it should dynamically allow you to respond to those things. And because this news item doesn't have a response, but for the news items that should have a response, like contract renewals, I need to have that UI functionality there. So that's why I haven't coded that yet. so you can't really offer contracts or terminate them, but that should be something that I'll work on and get done. In terms of tag teams, do we have any? We don't have any inactive teams, so these are all the teams that we have. We have 2 face teams. Again, nothing has really changed here. You can change the worker. That adds a log event here. We can give them a finisher 3D. That's a high flying move, right? Is it? I don't know. Anyway, 3D high flying move. Can deactivate the team or activate them, and so on. For the stables, we have a stable called Vanguard Knights, the only stable. Can make Ronnie the leader. Change the name of the team. We can deactivate the team. We can disband it, but we get a notice to tell us not to do that. We can add workers, so you can manage stables and tag teams. Just added a heel to a bunch of faces, probably get rid of him. So managing the stables and tag teams, that's already been done. This is a global promotion, so we have a bag full of title belts. And it looks like, and you have all the, you can split your main event titles, your upper mid cards, and so on. You can filter by the various men, women's titles, and so on. So we have the Women's World Championship, which is vacant, but slightly more prestigious than the men's title. Let's rename the men's title to the Men's World title, because it's nice to have symmetry. And we get a staff opinion. They're telling us that we should strengthen the champion's legacy, so keep the belt on Greg, and maybe Jonathan would be a good idea for somebody that can have a fight with him, and or Yutaka for a feud. And if we look at the women's title, we need obviously somebody that should, so Susanna seems to be like the most, we don't have a really strong women's roster, so she seems like the person that they're recommending. So these staff opinions are contextual, and you can rename a title, suspend it, retire it completely, or even create a new title. This is exactly the same as my last update, but I just wanted to show that again. I'll come back to the TV screen because the event screen is what I wanted to show you. So this was working the last time round. All this event stuff was working. We have our TV shows and the loud shows. Because we're on the first game date, when we click on continue, the house shows will also be generated. But what we can do here, and this is really the crux of the game, is to book a venue. I'm going to go to the United States because I haven't, for the rest of the selectable game countries, I haven't created the regions for them. So the United States does have them, and it has venues as well. So let's go to good old California, and we'll book this venue. These are all fake venues. Hopefully we'll have real venues at some point, but the game will automatically generate, and you can go through and see which are the venues that good atmosphere, good qualities, and so on. Let's book this venue. You can see that I have 87,865,000, and when I book the venue, the cash is deducted from my balance. As a global promotion, I can, for the rest of the events, I'm just going to auto book them. The auto booker, so you have 2 kinds of auto bookers. You have the AI with their bookers and owners. And the AI is a little bit smarter for the other promotions, because what they will do is they'll take their entire calendar of events, and from their cash balance they'll say that, okay, this is the amount of money that we allocate towards our venue booking budget, and these are the shows that we're going to put on this month, and then they will book based on a budget per show. So the AI will be smarter when it comes to choosing venue and capacity, but your auto booker maybe not so smart, because we just finished booking that last one. He doesn't take into consideration the capacity and so on. He tries to book the shows in the same region, so you'll see that there'll be a lot of shows in California, so you're not zigzagging across the United States. So he'll take a few things into consideration, but not everything. And for example, let's say that you have the crux of booking these venues is that as long as a show doesn't have a venue booked, you can't start promoting it. So if you, as a regional promotion where you have less money, you want to do a balance between you're selling the tickets for your shows, but you also have cash on hand. You don't want to run out of money. So it's a question of how far ahead do you book, especially when you have the AI trying to get the venues as well. And also, as I said, the AI is not very smart. So if you have a show in 3 days' time, you want to consider how much tickets you can sell. And in this case, the AI will not take that into consideration. It's booked this venue with a 40,000 capacity, and maybe it'll be a struggle to try and fill that. So anyway, what I've done here is I've booked all these events, and if we go into the TV shows and we have a look at our TV show ER About, that's in the late evening slot. So we go to the events, we have a look at the time for this, and you can see that it's at 9 o'clock. So we're in the late evening. We can set an announcer. So for example, Tony here is a good announcer, only 5 points off Irvin, but he's a trainer as well, so that's something to take into consideration. We go back to our events, we can see that Ernesto and Irvin have been set as our announcers for all the future events. We can change the name of the show, but I think Bout is a good enough name. And the contract expiry is 3 months. If we have a look at the TV networks, we're on the ESPN network. We have a show on Wednesday on ESPN and a show on Saturday on NBC. So on the ESPN network, you can see that their reach, this is a national network because we're a global promotion. We also have regional promotions, regional networks. And you can see that there's a slight issue because we're in the late evening slot and we should have 3 months remaining, but I think this is just because I manually updated the database and I forgot to change the 24 months on here. But what I'd like to draw your attention, so we're expected to get ratings in the 3.5 bracket, but if you have a look at the prime time, there's nothing on prime time, so maybe we can ask them if the ratings are good to move into prime time. But here you can get an idea of how much reach, so 85% of the population can be reached by this station, but obviously it depends on how hot wrestling is and how good of an event you put on and the competition that you have and so on. And we're expected to get a 3.5 rating. Okay, so we have booked the venue, we've set the announcer. Let's talk to the network about extending the contract for this show as well. So the minute we do that, we get a message saying, hey, we'll consider your request and get back to you. Don't call us, we'll call you. So the first tick of the game, you can see that we get an update from WrestleTix, which shows you the upcoming events that are coming in the next 5 days and the tickets that have been sold. So we've got house shows, we don't really care about anyone but us. So ER About, that's our TV show that's coming up in a day's time. And we rented a 40,000 seater stadium and we've sold 24,000. That's not too bad. We've got 15. There's an initial ticket surge just that kind of tapers off, and we have 15,000 tickets to sell. Maybe we won't get a sellout, but we'll see. So the first one is TWR About. They've got the same name as us. And we get an update from WrestleNomics that tells us that they scored a 0.04 rating, which represents 52,000 viewers. If we have a look at that TWR About, it's on the CBS regional for Iowa. I probably should have added a search to this screen. If we scroll down to Iowa, the CBS regional, they have a total reach of just under 1 million. And for prime time, which is what this show is on, they're expecting a rating of 1.45. So these guys are really not doing so great. Maybe they should move to the graveyard slot or somewhere where they're probably more likely to get the ratings. But they only had 30% of the, so maybe for a promotion of their size, I'm not sure how big TWR are, but that's not good ratings. Anyway, we get a chance to book our show. So the show screen is the button is not available because obviously I haven't got the book screen there, but we can simulate the event for sure. And our rating is 4.54, which is good. It's higher than the average expected. But for a global promotion, maybe we should get a little bit more, especially in the late evening slot. Let's simulate the next event. Okay, so these guys seem to be our rivals, but they're in the graveyard slot and they got 3.51. Let's continue. Oh, by the way, we now have the house shows, and I should probably book a few of them as well in case. We have a popularity value here, and there's a chance that you will get a proposal. So if you don't put on a show that's been advertised, you'll have a performance penalty. So especially when you have the auto booker, there's no reason to be lazy and have to refund people. And we just book the rest of the show. There we go. So full house show circuit, full TV show circuit. And we're getting ticket sale updates as well. They got a 3.5 rating, so this is the other global promotion. I think we did the best, so we won the ratings for that way. If you have house shows as well, you get the updates on the house show and you can see how much the shows are grossing. And this is really in between the TV shows. Having a house show circuit and running them is a way to make money and to stay in the black. Okay, so the decision has come in and they've agreed to extend this for a further 12 months. Let's see if that's actually happened. So we go to, yep, so we've got 15 months here, and if we go to events, we'll see that we weren't booked by past March, but now we have all the way through until next March, and then the contract ends then. So we've extended all the events. And this event took place at 7 o'clock, I'm sorry, 9 o'clock, because we're in that prime time, so in that late evening slot. This upcoming event that we still haven't done, that's also at 9 o'clock as well. And what we'll do, because we've got ratings which are quite good, is we'll ask them if they'll move us into the prime time slot. I'm not sure whether our ratings are good enough for the new slot, but we'll see. So TGP Turmoil, they got 2.96 in the late evening slot. Let's continue booking. You can see that this news screen, this is really your portal into the game screen. I haven't coded the world screen yet. So this is how you see what's happening in the game world, the tickets being sold, the ratings and so on. You can drill down into the TV screen, but this is kind of like an overview that happens, and you can see that various things that ask you to do stuff and draws your attention is all driven through this news screen. Unfortunately, because your current ratings are not measuring up to our expectations for your show in the current time slot, we'll not be moving you. Ouch. Okay. Normally when I do this, I actually do get the, let's see if our ratings have improved. Okay, 7.5. Let's go back to the television and see if they'll put us into prime time now. By the way, if you, instead of having to click continue and having to deal with this screen, you can tell the UI that you want to skip future events. But just because I manually want to see how things are going, I'm not going to skip that. I'll just continue on. But it gets tedious having to press skip every single time, so you can, or if you actually want to attend the event, I guess you probably don't want to skip it. Okay, so this time they're happy with our ratings and they'll say that they'll move us into the prime time slot going forward. Let's check if that's the case. Yep, we're in prime time now. And if we have a look at the events, so this event should have taken place at the old time of 9 o'clock, but the event that's coming up this month, this week, is now at the 7 o'clock slot. So we've definitely been moved into prime time. That should probably have an impact on our ratings as well, and you can see that the events out in the future still the case that they're in the new event. Okay, so at this point you can see that the crux, the real kind of, the core of the game, putting on events, the ticket sales, that's kind of done. You can see that my money is building up again as I'm putting on those shows and the house shows and so on. And obviously there's cost to the shows, there's production costs, there's wrestler wages and so on. And the thing that I'm going to do next, the finances screen, that will kind of bring everything together, because on one screen you see all the income, the ticket sales, the television revenue, blah blah blah, and you also see your expenditure, the wages and the venue costs and so on. So you can see where the income and expenses are going, and you also get to do things like setting your advertising rates, your merchandising rates, sorry, marketing rates, and merchandising. You can opt to have a line of merchandise created for a wrestler, and then he cools off, or the contract renewal doesn't happen, and so on, and you're left with inventory, and changing the pricing of things dynamically, trying to sell stuff. The finance is really how everything gets put together, and it's the rest of the business side of things. And once that's done, then world would be the next thing, where you get to see the game world as something I should mention actually, because these ratings are actually dynamic. The game world has a very simple economical model. So you have unemployment, you have inflation, and all these various things that interact with each other. And as they interact with each other, the regions change as well. So, for example, if the country's not doing so well and you have unemployment going up, that means people have more free time. So maybe you might get some more viewers, but at the same time they don't have as much money, so the ticket sales drop as well. So you have this dynamic game economy which affects your performance, but also the ratings are also, you have wrestling booms and wrestling busts. There'll be times when ratings are high, like for example in 98 when ratings were really at the top, all the way down to maybe the mid 2010s when the wrestling is not so hot. So the game will try and simulate that. You have periods of economical boom and bust, and that's going to affect the affluence of a region, how many people will buy your tickets, and also how many people will view your shows. So they're not, like a lot of these games where the ratings are fixed. It's not like that. But when you click on the world, you'll be able to see that. Then you'll be able to see other promotions and other wrestlers and make offers to them. And I think that's the missing part. Once I've done the world and finance screens, I think that's all of the internal stuff kind of wrapped up, and then it's just booking shows and actually being able to see the shows and creating feuds. So realistically, we're not that far away from a release. I think a few more months, and this is almost complete. Um, the harder thing is balancing the game, making sure that everything, like the ratings are realistic, that the ticket sales are realistic, and the game is challenging, and so on. But to get the big stuff inside, to get the bigger picture done, I think that's really quite important. I can see, if you can see in this update, this is really where we've got to. So anyway, thanks for listening, and I hope you appreciated the update. If you have any feedback, if you want to give me any encouragement, please drop into the Discord. Yeah, and I'll see you guys soon.